Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another video. It's me again, MadameMacabre, here to share more horrors of the internet and real life with you all. Today, I have another special video. You know, I've been dabbling in the real-life horrors of entitled parents and things like that here and there. Well, that actually caught the attention of one of my very own viewers who wanted to submit her own entitled parent story. But the twist here is the entitled parents in question are her own parents. Now, because of the sensitive nature of such things, I will not be sharing her name. For the case of this video, we will refer to her as Sarah. Now, Sarah has decided to share several short stories about things she has had to endure from her very own entitled parents. So without further ado, let's bring some light to Sarah's experiences. Now, before we dive in, Sarah does offer a little bit of context, which reads as, I was born out of wedlock. Because of me, my parents had to be married. They thankfully got along well, but since my parents are very Catholic, this was a blemish to the family and their marriage. Along with this, in the cast, you will see that I have two younger brothers who have since noticed the error of their ways and are no longer entitled. However, my little sister is still very entitled. Now, keeping all that in mind, let's start with story number 1. I was in the 3rd grade when my parents first started having me do chores. Chores like cleaning the bathrooms that used harsh chemicals. My mom made me do them every Saturday on top of dusting, doing laundry, and beds and vacuuming. My brothers, of course, didn't have any chores at all. And to this day, I still do the majority of chores. Jump forward in time. One time during the winter break I had from college, which, keep in mind, my father constantly reminds me of how he graciously pays for me, I was doing my chores a bit slower than usual. My dad doesn't like me taking forever on chores because he, quote, likes his house to be spotless. I was being an angsty little Cinderella while picking up the mess my sister made before leaving for a birthday party for one of her friends. I was almost done with that, and my dad, with no warnings, spills hot tea on me and yells at me to move faster. I ask what the literal heck is wrong with him. He just spills more tea on me and tells me not to speak to him in such a manner. So I fight with him for a little while, and then I decide to just leave the mess that he made with his tea on the carpet and walk towards the bathroom to clean that instead. He blocked my way, and when I tried to get around him, he tried to punch my stomach and tried to push me down a flight of stairs. He is a 6-foot-something man, and I am 5'3". I am stunned at what my dad just tried to pull. I'm speechless at this point. My father takes this opportunity to yell at me to clean up the mess that he left behind. He then tells me that it is my obligation as a woman to take care of the men, all the while justifying my sister was a princess who didn't need to get her little hands dirty. Who knew my parents were sexist? I told my boyfriend this whole story and he told me it was abuse. Then told his mom, and she's more concerned for my well-being. Okay, that's the end of story 1, and I gotta say, I agree with your boyfriend. Yes, it is in the entitled parents category, but I'm also gonna say that this is starting to sound like actual abuse. I know there are some people who will fire back and go, oh, well, that's just punishment. Parents are allowed to punish their kids. That's not punishment. As someone who works with children and is trained to recognize forms of abuse, you are legally not allowed to, quote, punish a child with a closed fist. That is classified as physical abuse. And trying to push you down the stairs, there's no justifying that. That's sketch. And considering all the other stuff and context and other things we may be missing, I would be so bold as to assume there's probably a lot of emotional abuse going on in the back burner as well. But I am getting ahead of myself here because we still have 2 more stories to break into. So let's move on to story number 2. This happened during the 9th grade. My ex-best friend had given me a metallic red 3DS for my birthday. She told me that she gave it to me because she didn't play with it as much because she had a 3DS extra large and played that more often. I treated that 3DS as if it was my own baby. That and my bisexual butt had the biggest, most obvious crush on her at the time, but that's not the point. Cue entitled bratty sister. Now, whenever I would play on it at home, she would always try and take it away from me and make a huge fuss about how I didn't deserve it and how it should actually be hers. My mom caught me very lightly pushing my sister away, and my sister had the audacity to fling herself across the kitchen, play hurt, and cry big fat crocodile tears. My mother, of course, gets angry and tries to yank my 3DS away from me. I push my mom away with more force and run to the nearest bathroom and lock myself in. Eventually, my parents had enough. So instead of just telling my sister that she needed to respect my boundaries and my property, of course, they just bought her a brand new one of her very own. Of course, she wasn't happy with the color, but she was such a strong and good person, she made do. The 3DS at the time was a newer console, and it was kind of expensive, but of course my parents wouldn't want to wait for the price to drop for their perfect little princess. And of course, internet was cut off for me, and my father broke the phone I had at the time in sheer rage of not bending backwards and surrendering my property to my little sister. Holy guacamole, dude, this is not good. This is not good. I mean, fortunately, you mentioned being in college, so hopefully you are out of these people's lives for good, because this is not healthy. I've got more thoughts, but I think I'm gonna hold off until the very end since we only have one more story. So let's get into this horror story. All right, here we go. This story takes place the year before the last in the 8th grade, so before I had the 3DS. I had saved up enough money to buy myself my own DSi. Mind you, this was the system that came out before the 3DS. It was red and I carried it on me at all times, and I never had it out of reach for fear of someone stealing it. Funny enough, my parents really didn't seem to care. They didn't bat an eye as to where I could have gotten that much money from or how I could even afford it. The reality was it was an agonizingly long process of collecting money I found on the ground and having it exchanged for dollar bills. My sister, being at that beautiful age of being too young to care, complained to my mom that she wanted it. So my mom told her to ask to play with it. I naturally told her no, it was mine, I just got it, and it took me months to raise the money and wait for the price to drop enough so I could get one. She obviously didn't like this answer and wailed to my mom that she wanted it. My mom then ordered me to hand it over, and I told her no as well. Of course, she ended up yelling at me that if I didn't give it to my sister, she'd get my dad to cut my internet and phone for a whole month. So I had to hand it over. I had no choice. When I finally got it back, the screen was scratched up and the stylus was so chewed up to the point it was useless to even keep it. I was beyond furious with both my mom and my sister, and my thanks for offering up my brand new device to be destroyed by my sister. My parents still had my phone and internet cut off anyway for being a, quote, greedy good-for-nothing who doesn't want my sister to be happy. Oh boy, okay, before I unpack all of that, she's got a little bit of other stuff included at the end. Sarah mentions that to this day, stuff is still happening. She recently had a conversation with her parents where they told her they didn't care about her or her hypothetical wedding, and they had no interest in attending. And sadly, this really upsets Sarah because despite all of this, she still cares for her family, but she is grateful that her boyfriend, soon-to-be fiancé, his family, cares for her and sees her as one of their own. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. All right, that's a lot. Let's try and unpack some of that. First of all, I'm just sorry you had to go through any of this. No child should ever have to grow up in those circumstances. It's ugly, but it really does happen. Now, based on all three of these stories you've shared and the different context of the siblings and the parents and the context you gave at the beginning, I think it is completely reasonable to come to the conclusion that your parents, whether they are actively aware of it or not, clearly hold some resentment for you. Though there are countless children out there who weren't necessarily planned, but are loved beyond measure, there is also a small amount who have parents that just blame them for their own actions. You didn't ask to be born, that was between your parents, but they're still gonna make it your problem. This is strikingly similar to a dear friend of mine who, just like with your parents, she wasn't necessarily planned, and that required her parents to get married because religious families, except in their case, the parents actually kind of resented each other a little bit, so not good. But anyway, because of this, her entire life, she was treated like little Cinderella, while her little sister, who was planned, was the golden reigning princess of Earth and got everything her heart desired, while she was lucky if she could get hand-me-downs from her little sister. So as horrible as this is, please understand, you've done nothing wrong, this is in no way your fault, and you're not alone. There are other people who are going through similar struggles. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it okay, but just know that you didn't do anything and you're not alone. My honest advice to you would be, if your parents are not doing anything but bringing you misery, they're hurting you, they're breaking your heart again and again, evaluate in your mind and in your heart, is it worth it to keep them in your life? Now, I understand it is very difficult to cut family out because that's your family. But at the same time, if they are doing nothing but hurting you, maybe taking a break might be what's necessary. Now, I understand while you're still going to school and still wrapping things up, that may not be possible, but just keep it on your mind in the horizon for the future. And hey, that may even be something that can help you get through this, is knowing that you only have to finish getting from A to B, and then you never have to deal with this again. And it can suck if you're already a legal adult, because usually in these situations, if you're still technically under their roof, they don't care that you're adult. They're not going to treat you with any autonomy whatsoever. You're still like a child with no rights to them. It can suck, but you know what? You're not going to be under their roof forever. You're going to get out of there, and once you are no longer dependent on them at all, they can't control you, and you don't even have to think about them. Alright, well, I'm sorry if this video topic is a little bit of a downer, but, life isn't always sunshine and sparkles. I hope that this video, I hope it was therapeutic for you to be able to vent, and I hope that my words maybe offer some comfort. If there are people down below who want to share their thoughts, advice, or maybe they're going through something similar and y'all want to use this as an opportunity to support one another, please feel free to do so. But anyway, Sarah, I know that's not your real name, but Sarah, thank you for sharing with us, and I hope things get better for you. And that is all we're going to cover for today, so I will catch you all next time. Stay creepy, my friends. Bye-bye.